Come on now, fellas! We've got to answer the bell. Now let's go!
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome into Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Chris Yao. Alongside is Wade Neely, and we are glad to be with you here on this beautiful Wednesday, a wild and wacky one indeed. But man, what a fantastic day we have planned for you. A fantastic show. Absolutely. Headed your way. Wade, what's going on, man?
Oh, you hit the nail right on the head, partner. A wild and wacky Wednesday. I feel like we've been running and gunning all day and ready to knock a good show out. We finally hit hump day, and both of us survived watching the NBA play-in games last night, including one of the all-time ugly finishes to a basketball game as the Lakers win in OT.
Yeah, and what... Not scoring for, 5 minutes or so. Minnesota just struggling out there, and it cost them, despite being up pretty handily throughout most of the game. So tough night for the T-Wolves. But LA moves on. They get a hungry Grizzlies team, so we'll see how that plays out this weekend. Heather Williams will join us in just a few moments, of course, as she always does on Wednesdays. We'll talk with her about NASCAR, and obviously she was at Bristol this weekend because, well, she lives 3 miles from the track. So
makes it convenient, right?
It does, in fact. It does, in fact, make it a little bit easier to get to when you are just so close. But Martinsville is this weekend, and she's not far from Martinsville. So I'm sure she'll be there this weekend as well. So we'll get a chance to talk to her and see what's going on. We also have Caleb JARREAU of the Tennessee Daily Beacon. He'll join us and talk about Lady Vols had a transfer out this morning. Tough loss for Kelly Harper's group as they are left with now 0 high school signees on their roster. Everyone is a transfer. Yeah, it's a serious situation, but also a little odd. So looking forward to talking to him about that, but also whether or not fans should be worried about this Tennessee baseball team because they are struggling. So We'll get into that a little bit, all of that and much, much more. But first, Wade, we have to get to yesterday's results and today's schedule, and we do that on the rundown.
The rundown.
There we go. It always takes a little minute for the music to pop up, but here we go. Baseball action yesterday. Plenty of it. Laverne 13-2 winners over Cane Ridge, and Canyon County 12-11 over Westmoreland. It was Centennial blanking Hillsboro 15-0, and Clarksville shutting out Graves County of Kentucky 7-0. It was Columbia Academy 12, BGA 2. Montgomery Bell Academy 4-1 winners over Christ Presbyterian. Clarksville Academy down Davidson Academy 15-0, and Eagleville was a 4-2 winner over the Middle Tennessee Monarchs. Pope Prep falls to Innsworth 8-1, and Fairview downs Cheatham County 13-3. It was Franklin 7, Brentwood Academy 0. Friendship Christian 14-6 winners over Donaldson Christian, and Martin Luther King, wow, 37. Glencliff 0. I don't even know how you score 37 runs in a baseball game. Good Pasture 17-0 over Nashville Christian. Grace Franklin downs the Webb School 14-4. Hampshire 9-6 winners over Collinwood. Hendersonville shuts out Beach 6-0, and Gallatin 15-1 winners over Hunters Lane. It was Independence 13-3 against Columbia. Brentwood downs John Overton 10-0, and Dixon County 35-0 over Kenwood. It was Lewis County 9, Mount Pleasant 5, Portland 9, Liberty Creek 3. Lipscomb Academy shuts out Father Ryan 4-0. Hillwood 27-1 over Maplewood. Station Camp 4-0 over McGavick. Middle Tennessee Christian 6-3 over University School of Nashville. 3-0 is the score for Creekwood over Montgomery Central, and Green Hill down Mount Juliet 4-1. And Hume-Fogg 7, Murfreesboro Central 4, Blackman 7, Oakland 3, Tullahoma 3-0 winners over Page. Ravenwood blanks Nolensville 7-0, Richland 11-1 over Wayne County, and Siegel 5, Riverdale 1.
Other baseball scores yesterday, it was Rossview 6, McCracken County, Kentucky 4. Spring Hill was a 10-0 winner over Lawrence County. Stewart's Creek down Smyrna 5-1. An absolute pitcher's duel as Summertown gets a home win versus Giles County 1-0 in 8 innings. Summertown knocks off Rockville 14-7. East Robertson takes care of Trousdale County 13-0. Watertown knocks off Smith County 8-7. Greenbrier a 3-0 win over White House. It was Stratford 13 and Whites Creek 1. Those are baseball scores yesterday. Now we go to softball. It was Gallatin 8, Beach 3. Columbia Academy a 5-2 winner over BGA. Rockville takes care of Blackman 6-4. Stewart's Creek wins 20-0 over Cane Ridge. A lot of runs coming across in that game, as well as a Cornersville 23, Culleoka 0. Good Pasture takes care of DCA 7-1. Franklin Road Academy 11, Grace Christian Franklin 1. Station Camp 16-1 win over Hunters Lane. It was Huntland 2, Eagleville 1. Nice ball game there. Franklin wins 19-14 over John Overton. Loretto blanks Lewis County 10-0. Hendersonville 16, McGavick 0. Summertown softball cruises over Mount Pleasant 15-0. It was Murfreesboro Central Magnet 13, Hume-Fogg 8. Riverdale 9, Oakland 7. Lincoln County wins a squeaker versus Page 3-2. Greenbrier 16, Portland 0. And it is Richland 3, Wayne County 1. Zion Christian 10, Riverside Christian 2, Smyrna 19, Antioch 0. And it was Watertown 17, Trousdale County 2.
Boys soccer action, Wilson Central edges Beach 3-2. Rockville and Blackman 4-4 draw there. Columbia Central blanks Summit 3-0, and Richland falls to Community 5-1. It was Gallatin 5, Smyrna 4. Hendersonville 8-0 winners over Portland. McGavick 3-2 against John Overton, and a 0-0 draw for Murfreesboro Central and Lawrence County, as well as Macon County and Liberty Creek. Battleground Academy takes down Middle Tennessee Christian 8-1. Laverne 7-2 over Mount Juliet. Rossview 7, Greenbrier 0. It was Siegel 2, Riverdale 0. Station Camp 9-0 over Maplewood. Smith County 4, Watertown 1, Merrillhide 7-0 over Westmoreland. White House Heritage doubles up White House 6-3, and Franklin Classical doubles up Zion Christian 4-2. In college baseball action, 7 innings, same score for both of these games. Vanderbilt 14, North Alabama 2, Tennessee 14, Eastern Kentucky 2, both of those in 7 innings. Belmont doubles up Austin P 12-6, while Lipscomb takes out Tennessee Tech 4-1. Georgia State gets a home win against Middle Tennessee State 5-2, and Stillman, with the bats were out in Stillman yesterday, 13-12 the score over the Firehawks of UT Southern. Junior college play, it was 12-3 the score for Vol State in game 1 against Lake Area Academy, and the Vols get a 16-2 win against Lake Area Academy in the second game of that set. Wabash Valley in 7 innings downs Columbia State 15-5.
A couple more scores as college softball. It was Tennessee 11 to the good, Virginia Tech 0. Murray State in a 10-inning affair knocks off Belmont 1-0. Trevecca takes both contests versus Kentucky Wesleyan 6-2 in a 5-inning affair 9-1. Christian Brothers was in Pulaski yesterday, knocking off UT Southern in both contests 2-0 and 10-4. In the bigs last night, it was the Braves getting a 1-run victory versus the Reds, 7-6 your final there. Astros, tough luck for the Astros there, 7-4. They fall to the Pirates. Cardinals get a 9-6 win over the Rockies. It was the Rue Crew knocking off the D-backs yesterday, 7-1. And in minor league baseball, good win for the Sounds as they knock off Norfolk by a final score of 8-5.
Baseball action this afternoon at 3 o'clock is CPA at MBA. At 4 o'clock, you can catch Maplewood at Hillwood. At 4:30, it's Father Ryan hosting Lipscomb Academy. 5 o'clock, first pitches today, Summertown at Eagleville. Pope Prep hosting Innsworth. At 6 o'clock, it's Oakland at Blackman, and Davidson Academy at Clarksville Northeast. Columbia Central welcomes Independence, while Santa Fe goes to Culleoka. Hunters Lanes at Gallatin, and McCracken County hosting Rossview. Riverdale's at Siegel, and West Creek is at Stewart County. At 6:30, it's Ravenwood at Nolensville, and Portland at Springfield. And at 7 o'clock tonight, Beach welcomes Hendersonville. Mount Juliet's at Green Hill. Wilson Central goes to Lebanon, and Station Camp hosting McGavock.
Softball action today, a couple of 4:30 starts. First, Clarksville Academy will visit Friendship Christian. Westmoreland goes to Smith County at 4:30 as well. Portland travels to Springfield. 5 o'clock starts. Franklin Road Academy is at BGA tonight. CPA will travel to Eazell Harding. Summit will visit Franklin at 5 p.m. Coming up at 5:30, you've got Creekwood at Greenbrier. It's a rare 6 o'clock start between Blackman at Laverne tonight. And at 6:30, light schedule in softball action. You have Oakland at Forest, and you have Coffee County traveling, I should say, to Siegel. Couple of boys soccer matchups on the schedule tonight, including one that you can hear on Pulaski Citizen Live. Giles County will travel over to Richland in a game they've rescheduled now on 2 different occasions. They'll play at 7 p.m. up in Linville. Lebanon will travel to Smyrna. Page will visit Spring Hill, and Siegel will go to Hendersonville. College baseball action this evening. It was a morning-afternoon, hope I got that right, doubleheader as Cumberland traveled to Georgetown College over in the Eastern time zone there. Alabama Huntsville goes to Trevecca for a 5 p.m. start. And in college softball this evening, MTSU at Austin P. That game is on ESPN Plus at 5 o'clock. Also on ESPN Plus, you have Western Kentucky at Lipscomb.
Major League Baseball right now, it may be over at this point. The Astros and
Astros
Pittsburgh.
7, Pirates 0 in the 8th inning, my friend. I like that.
8th inning, there you go. That's in progress at 2:10. So just a moments ago, Colorado first pitch against St. Louis at 2:40. The Brewers and Diamondbacks will close their series, and tonight at 6:20, the Reds will continue at the Braves. And if you're heading out to First Horizon Park to see Justin, you should get there around 6:35 for a first pitch as Norfolk continues their series in Nashville. And that is your rundown. All right, so top story time as we go to the association, Wade. Obviously, I'm sorry, not the association, to the National Hockey League. Nashville, we talked about them, had still mathematically possible to make the playoffs, but they needed Winnipeg to lose 2, and the Predators had to win both of their final 2 games. Well, unfortunately, Winnipeg did not hold up their end of the bargain. They defeated Minnesota last night 3-1 and ended the National Hockey League's second longest playoff streak So the Preds are now officially out. That being said, you got 2 games left. You got a lot of guys hurt. You got a lot of young guys up. Oh, and by the way, Milwaukee is in the playoffs in the AHL. So the question now is, what do you do if you're the Preds organization? Do you send them down, or do you keep them up, play these 2 meaningless games, and then send them back to Milwaukee? What do you do over the next 2 games?
Yeah, I guess if I'm the GM here, I'm trying to do what potentially is best for the long-term sustainability of your franchise. And it's kind of a tough juggling act because trophies, stay in the trophy case forever. And if you could go ahead and potentially send some guys down, make a nice run, that would certainly go a long way toward bolstering your reputation and maybe just kind of continuing to establish that winning culture there. We talked with Pete earlier this week, Pete Weber, and he, had bragged about the depth and the quality that this franchise has had over the years in their both professional and minor league pipeline. So kind of a bit of an interesting situation. Just the real bummer about all this is kind of like you touched on, is that Winnipeg is taking on Minnesota. That is a very quote unquote losable game. And you're sitting there thinking, all right, just maybe we could get a little bit of luck here. And for it not to come down to at least the final game is a little disappointing. But unfortunately, I think the Preds are just snake bit with injuries, and there's just a few too many games that they kind of let slip through their fingertips throughout the course of the season that they're going to wish that they had back, because sitting right here at the end, so close to sneaking in, keeping that streak alive, and to come up just shy is always disappointing. And I'll be real curious to see how they respond and regroup, because like you said, the future is bright for this organization. And how do they turn that around going into next year will be what I'm curious about.
Yeah, and how do you approach these last 2 games? I mean, obviously the young guys, you got to think they're playing for the future. They're playing for a spot, right? So they're going to be playing hard no matter what, even if it is Minnesota and Colorado coming in here. You feel, those are, I think, the top 2 teams in the Western Conference, number 1 seed and number 2 seed. And now that all 8 seeds have been kind of are set, I mean, how does Colorado and Minnesota play it? Are they going to kind of week 18, to use a football term, they're going to week 18 it, or are they going to, come in here and try to win as well? So I don't know. You could see a AAA game in the last 2 between these 2 franchises. I don't know, but I'm curious how if the young kids are playing for Nashville, how they approach it. I can't imagine that there's any reason to play any of your Forsbergs, Duchesnes, etc. I mean, you're out of the playoff race. Get them healthy, get them back for next year. You got 13 draft picks. So just seems to me like an opportunity to kind of get folks healthy and get some folks some playing time.
Yeah, I'm with you. Tip your cap to the veterans who hung in there as long as they could. But now maybe a chance. But how many times do you hear the phrase, they're hockey players, and, they're going to rub some dirt on it and try and get out there if they can. These guys love to play. They love to compete. And I wouldn't be shocked if a couple of them slip in for a few shifts at least, if nothing else. But tough way to go out. And it's kind of unfortunate that you got the 2 quote unquote meaningless games there at the end. But still a great run. They were competitive down the stretch. A couple of weeks ago, before they kind of caught fire a little bit, it looked like they might just toil near the bottom of this thing before we ended the season. But they gave a little bit of a run. Selfishly, I wish it would have came down to the very last game, or maybe even possibly beyond into the playoffs. But a tough run, tough go of it. And I got a feeling this won't be the last time we'll hear from them in contention. That's for sure.
No, I can't imagine either. So looking forward to these last 2. Obviously, want to see these young players do everything that they possibly can to, find themselves on the roster next year, because I think they played really, really strong to close the season. So kudos to them for sure. We're going to take our first break of the day. And when we come back, we have Heather Williams, our resident NASCAR aficionado who will join us. So y'all stick around here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We'll come back to the Lee Company studio right after this. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Attention Tennessee homeowners, we want to buy your house. Hi, we are Real Property Solutions, a local real estate investing group. We pay cash for all types of property, so you walk away with more money in your pocket because we eliminate any fees, closing costs, and commissions. Now the best part, we can buy your house as is, meaning you don't have to do a thing to your property. You get to take what you want, leave what you don't, and don't even worry about cleaning. We close on your timeline, whether that's 7 days or 70 days. Interested in selling? Just give us a call and we'll come out to your property and quote you a cash offer within 24 hours. Please call 615-527-8750. That's 615-527-8750.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back in to Main Street Sports Today. We are presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Glad to have you with us here. We got to get to Heather quickly because she has somewhere to be. And so we are now headed to the Real Property Solutions hotline, where we welcome in Heather Williams. And let's see. I got to get to her. There we go. Heather, are you there? Can you hear us now? Still can't hear us. Oh.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us now?
Okay, I can hear you kind of now.
Yeah, it's craziness going on here right now, but we are down a producer, and so I am having to wear some hats, lots of them. If you can hear us, just tell us. Obviously, what's the consensus on Bristol dirt? It seems very mixed after a few years.
I think you asked me about Bristol dirt. You were breaking up pretty good there, but the consensus is still out. The jury is still out on Bristol dirt, and if it'll be back next year, I would say most of the drivers are against Bristol dirt going forward. I think they like Bristol in the on the concrete. The ratings were pretty good for the race. The attendance was pretty good for the race, but I don't know if it'll be back or not, and I don't even know if NASCAR knows it'll be back or not.
Okay, that's that. Well, so there are no answers, just questions. That's great to know. But looking ahead, obviously, or I'm sorry, looking back at the race this particular weekend, yeah, you saw a lot of dirt guys finishing at the front, and they were really racing hard at the end of this thing, and it to me it was very entertaining finish.
Yeah, I thought it was the best race of the three we've had so far. I mean, the finish last year was a little bit more dramatic because they wrecked each other, but I thought just the overall racing was as good as it's been this year. The track was as good as it's been. The track prep and all the drivers bragged on that and were really impressed with that. And I think you saw the actual dirt guys up front. I think the top 7 finishers are guys with dirt experience. So, I think it was entertaining. I just don't think that enough people think that we should be doing the dirt thing to begin with. So I think that's a little bit of the resistance there, is that they just don't think that stock cars, big, heavy stock cars, belong on dirt. I thought it was good racing, and I think good racing is good racing, but drivers, they're never happy.
Yeah, well, there's always some ways to improve, right? There's no, they're never happy with anything, and I get it. I understand that, and hopefully, maybe that's one of the problems that they have, is that the dirt guys are winning the dirt race. Surprise, surprise.
Well, up until this year, but it wasn't dirt guys up until this year. I mean, Joey Logano
Right.
won the first one. He's definitely not a dirt guy. And Kyle Busch won the second one. He's kind of a dirt guy, but not really. He's not Kyle Larson. I just think that they don't like to do things that are different or especially challenging, and this is both. So I don't think that the drivers have some say, but I don't think they're whining. As long as the racing is good, will have any effect on that. I think it'll have to do with more with the logistics and the ratings, and I don't know what their benchmark is for that. The ratings were down, but still quite good for this race. So I don't know what the metrics are, and Fox's desire to have this race and on Easter Sunday primetime has a lot to do with whether or not it'll stay. And Easter's really early next year. Can you run Bristol in March on the dirt? A lot of things go into that and factor into that. So still to be determined.
And finally, I know we got to get you out of here quickly, so let's go to Martinsville. Are you headed to Martinsville? Or are you going to Martinsville? Okay, cool.
And it's going to be an interesting test. Yes. Yeah, I am headed to Martinsville, and I think it's going to be an interesting test, for the short track program. I got a chance to talk to Corey LaJoy earlier today, and he talked about, this is really just the second test.
I wonder if her...
Martinsville last year in the spring was a terrible race, so it can only go up from there. And, we'll find out. We'll find out if NASCAR is on the right track with the packaging for the short tracks, or if they need to, get back to work and do a little bit more to make the racing better.
There you go. Heather, we'll let you get out of here. What should we look for this weekend?
All right. Talk to you guys later.
All right. Have a good one. That's Heather Williams of WCYB. It's WCYB_Heather. The lower third there was wrong. It happens. But yeah, looking back at this past week in NASCAR, Christopher Bell with the win. Not surprised that the dirt guys finished up near the top. Couple of things going on in NASCAR right now, Wade. Got one guy who's facing a major suspension after an arrest, unfortunate arrest in Cody Ware. But also NASCAR is apparently looking into the contact incident at Bristol between Ryan Preece and Kyle Larson. So there's that. And then Martinsville is a short track. And as you know, we've talked with Heather all year long, short tracks have not been as exciting as they have been over the past due to the way this new car is set up. There's not as much, bumping and moving guys out of the way as there used to be. So, I mean, I'm interested to see how that plays out this year, because they thought they had fixed it, and they may have, but you never know. It's every week is something different with NASCAR right now, because they're still trying to figure out this new car. Have you seen the new car and the
I have not.
racing? It is very unique in that it's a kit car. So like everybody has the same parts, everybody has the same supplier. So it's, there's a little bit of difference in the body style, between manufacturers, but not much. So it's basically a kit car. It's really interesting.
When we're talking about Martinsville here, obviously, the thing that I'm curious about is how many times over the course of the weekend will the broadcast reference the Hail Melon last year from Mr. Chastain. I'm just curious, with that being back in Martinsville, how often will that clip come up? And when you mentioned kit car too, I'm real curious. I guess just as a layperson, what does is that just I'm assuming for safety purposes, but also I guess in theory that's how you determine maybe who the quote unquote best driver is if everybody's kind of driving the same car, right?
I think it's the idea. I don't know that to be a fact, but yeah, that's kind of what it has boiled down to. Is you're finding that everybody's kind of driving the same car, so we're going to find out who the best one is, and maybe that's the goal from the get go. I don't know.
I come into it. I'm a little bit of a F1 fan, and every week you watch it, and you can pretty much set your watch by the same 2 or 3 teams are going to finish right near the top, and it seemed like that's how NASCAR was, maybe back several years ago. But that's kind of the way that I would interpret that, just as a casual fan, is we're just going to put everybody out in the same ride and just see who can drive it the best each and every week, and just kind of, I guess, adapt to the track, right?
Well, and last year we saw that it worked. You're talking about guys who had, who had not won in a long time, but also, you saw 8 or 10 different winners early in the year. Now, once the really good drivers started figuring it out, obviously, you saw a little more of those top level guys at finishing at the top. But even in the playoffs, a playoff driver didn't win a race until like the next to last round. So, even guys who weren't in the playoffs were winning races at the end of the year. So, yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. The parity has made the racing better. It's obviously a little bit more bunched up. So, I'm curious to see how this week plays out and see if they've made any additional adjustments to making the short track races a little better. So, all right, well, we will take a break from the show real quick, and when we come back, talk a little baseball on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid Tennessee Ball and Joint. So stick around. We'll be right back. This is Chris Yao with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. AP Tennessee Sports Editor, three-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year 2020 TSWA Hall of Famer. She covers the Titans, the Predators, the Grizzlies, college football, and hoops. Please make welcome Teresa Walker.
Former University of Tennessee, former Team USA Olympian, ex-Cy Young Award winner, R.A. Dickey. R.A., did I miss anything?
Man, that was sweet. I need to listen to that before I go to bed every night. That was nice.
Has 5 sports Emmys. That's not bad for the other guy in Wham, Ryan McGee.
The other guy in Wham married the best-looking girl, Bananarama, so the other guy in Wham had a pretty good life.
From preps to pros, we're taking on the sports topics you care about. Tune in across Main Street Media social platforms at 2 p.m. or on demand on your podcast distribution platform of choice.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
Welcome back into Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Chris Yao. He's Wade Neely, and we are coming to you from the Lee Company studio, and glad to have you with us. Before we get into baseball, I got to show you this, Wade. This may be the funniest thing I've seen in a long, long time. Let's see if I can pull it up here and make it happen. There we go. A comparison between the Soviet Union and Alabama football. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's pretty accurate. I mean, can you see this? I can't hear you. You're muted. You chose to mute yourself.
Hey, well, that's maybe for the Alabama fans a good thing, because I was laughing extremely violently there. Borders and battles, Georgia. You know, that checks off right there. Ultimate goal of world conquest. And citizens excited by toilet paper and detergent is the one that really had me giggling a minute ago.
That's pretty good stuff right here. I don't care who you are. So yeah, I could control corrupt officials, no doubt. No doubt.
I mean, you know, hey, it makes you wonder just a little bit. I mean, just the similarities are there. That's all we're saying, right?
You better watch out. Embrace bear iconography. I love it. That's kind of scary how seriously that is. Man, well, let's talk a little baseball, because your team just finished off a 3-game set and took the series with a pair of wins.
Yep, reading about the Astros. They were already underway when we got on air today. They got a nice little 7-0 win. You know, they got up and suffered a walk-off last night, unfortunately. But good little bounce-back win. And Houston just continues. What did we say the other day? They're playing the entire AL Central. Now they've just migrated over and they're playing the NL Central at the moment. So they got that series coming up with Atlanta next weekend, which will be exciting on this show. I'll have to check in with you and Mo next week and get an update on that. But good win for Houston. I just feel like they're kind of just biding their time until, if they can just hang in there, you know, win the games they're supposed to win until Altuve comes back and they kind of start finding their way, settling down the rotation. I feel like they'll be in pretty good shape.
You're probably not wrong. I don't know if you saw this last night in the Braves game, but the giant hat is a thing for Atlanta, and it's pretty funny. I guess if you hit a home run, you get the giant hat. And I'm like, it's kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie.
It's certainly a look, and even going back to the NFL, I kind of groan every time I see the giant hat get busted out. But hey, if it's working for them, it's working for them. And that was a good win last night for them. Kind of winning a one-run game right there versus the Reds.
Yeah, another one-run game, another tough one, and of course Kyle Wright making his first start since being on the DL, or the IL. Sorry, it's so hard to say that still, and it's not been the DL for a long time. But when you're coming back, making your first start of the year after kind of getting stretched out in AAA, you just don't know what to expect. Gave up 4 runs in the 3rd inning, didn't walk, but had the bases loaded. Hits a guy for the first run of the game, then an infield single, scores a pair, and then walks a guy for the 4th run. And the Braves battled back. I mean, just, continued to battle. And then, Barrero gets a home run in the 8th off of Joe Jimenez, who's struggled a little bit, but, our friends from up in Detroit are not surprised, I'm sure. But the big, and not a surprise for us, but the big surprise to most everybody, Jesse Chavez, this guy. It's like when he puts on a Braves uniform, he becomes an all-world reliever. In anybody else's uniform, he's absolutely terrible. And I don't know what that is. What in the world is going on? Jesse Chavez has a 0.00 ERA, by the way, for the year.
Isn't it funny? And we were talking earlier this week about, not a change in scenery just per se, but a change in just habits and direction. And feels like just certain guys just for whatever reason, when they get to where they're supposed to kind of get to, so to speak, everything just kind of clicks all at once. And when you're throwing darts like he is right now, yeah, you just got to ride that wave, right?
It's, last year they traded him and a starting pitcher, I can't call his name, for Rafael Iglesias to the Angels. And then not a month later, the Angels DFA'd him and the Braves picked him back up and he came back. So they literally picked up the guy that they traded. It's pretty impressive. It really is. So I'm interesting. I'm always interested in Jesse Chavez coming in to be a Brave because dude is lights out. It's almost like I'd almost let him be our closer at this point. Seriously, he started. I guess did he start a game in the NLCS against? Yeah, he started an NLCS game against the Dodgers, 2 years ago when the Braves won the World Series, and went 3 innings in a bullpen game. It's just he can do it all, and he's like 40 years old. It's crazy.
Turning back the clock and showing the versatility, my friend.
He's a different ball player when he's got the Braves uniform on. Jeff Passan, friend of the show, has been on the show with us in the past. Breaking news about an hour and a half ago, Salt Lake City Group joins MLB expansion chase. So a consortium led by the former owner of the Utah Jazz plans to pursue a Major League Baseball franchise in the coming years, touting the area's population growth, strong economy, and baseball history as draws for a coveted expansion slot. Big League Utah, group headed by Gail Miller. They join Portland, Nashville, and Las Vegas as potential either expansion or relocation spots. Las Vegas, though, the front runner to land the Oakland Athletics. If you can only pick 2, and I would assume they would only pick 2 because there are 30 Major League Baseball teams? So you got 30 MLB teams, 32 NFL teams. You've got Portland, Nashville, and Salt Lake City. Of those 3, where would you expect them to go?
Well, right away you mentioned, I was already thinking it before you'd even said it, but Las Vegas just seems like the natural spot that franchises or leagues are looking, if they're going to expand, to potentially go to if they're not already there. There's already the rumblings and grumblings about an NBA franchise one day going to Las Vegas. That seems kind of like that's the new hot spot, especially with the success the Raiders have had since they moved. So that would be my first choice. And then, obviously selfishly, I'd like to see Nashville. Would you want to add two West Coast teams like that? And you mentioned, by the way, may show my ignorance here, but you mentioned history in terms of Salt Lake City. And I'm not just really drawing any major significant baseball breeding ground or history coming out of Salt Lake City, with all due respect to folks over there in the Beehive State.
When I read it, I was a little concerned about saying it out loud.
Okay, good. I thought you were getting ready to tell me that somebody very famous had played there, grew up there, and I was going to feel really sheepish after that, but I'm glad to hear that.
Your guess is as good as mine, man. I don't know what the history of Major League Baseball or baseball in general. I mean, I know they obviously have the bees, but Steve Sarks, who's the CEO of the Miller Company, which is Gail Miller, obviously her company. Salt Lake is a major league city. We believe it as a top 30 media market in the fastest growing state in the country with the youngest population. That's where our attention should be, and we could accomplish bringing a team to the Wasatch Front. Now, do you want a young audience?
That's the interesting question, and especially with the success they've had to start this season. Everybody was real curious how the pitch clock was going to go and the new rules, but it seems like things are trending in the right direction. Seems like attention is up, interest is up, and if you can kind of capture that somehow, then now maybe suddenly a sport that seemed like it was destined just for a bygone generation. Now, if you could somehow tap into that, then definitely you could have a marketing potential on your hands there.
Their minor league attendance was 18th highest in minor league baseball. That's not great. 58,
not the best.
58.73, the average attendance last year. You'd like to see that closer to 8 or 9, but it's still Major League Baseball. And if you get an expansion team, who knows? Obviously, if somebody relocates, then you've got that going. And there was a time that Tampa Bay was talking about relocating, and obviously Nashville would be a little better fit than relocating the A's, because you can't I guess you could put Nashville in the West. Atlanta was in the West forever. So, I mean, it could be done. I don't know that you'd want to, but the problem that I have with Nashville is that it's kind of already got teams. And it's really hard. And obviously with the transients and that sort of thing. And maybe that was true with the NFL. I don't remember. I wasn't here for the beginning of the Titans and whatnot. But I mean, the Braves, the Cardinals, you're talking about two of the most storied franchises in all of Major League Baseball. And you're going to try to take fans away from that. I don't know. Now,
we can throw a Reds fans as well too.
Yeah, you've got Reds fans. We can throw a party, but can we do it 82 times a year? Or 81 times a year?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a little different when you're talking about a 17, 18,000 seat arena versus 40. And I don't know. Now, here's the thing. If baseball stadium was to be built where they want to do it on the East Bank, and then you've got a new football stadium, and you've got an entertainment district, and you've got all these people, coming. Maybe there are trips, because I mean, I plan my trips to Atlanta based on who they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
So much like you see a lot of Pittsburgh fans here when they play the Predators, or much like you see, a lot of different Boston, tons of fans from across the country. The Titans used to be notorious for having, an opposing team taking over the stadium. is that what you want? In baseball, I don't guess it matters much, but it just feels like Nashville doesn't have the demographic or the ability to have Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and that's I said selfishly, just in the sense that I'm all for giving myself a little extra entertainment option there, and maybe having a team that I could really get close and root for. But as far as attracting those diehard fans, that would be a tough sell. Imagine you're a Braves fan, imagine you're a Cardinals fan living in Nashville, and all of a sudden you're kind of maybe expected or pseudo forced to root for a Nashville team. That's an awful tough sell for me. And so I would be, it's kind of almost to the point though, that if you build it in that entertainment district, hey, baseball, it'd be great if we got a home field advantage, obviously, especially if you get to the postseason, that'd be clutch, but it's almost like, hey, we don't necessarily care who comes out to the game. If you're already coming to our entertainment district over there on the East Bank, just as long as the seats are getting filled up, we don't necessarily care, which would be kind of disappointing. But it probably would also make a lot of money in that sense.
Yes, and it would certainly help the thought process behind the new stadium. I think that's that would be a selling point for those who are in favor of the stadium, is that you're talking about, but on top of that, you'd have to build a stadium. So now you're talking about building a football stadium. You want to build a baseball stadium too?
Yeah. That's tricky, but I fully expect that if we're going to get into the realm of whether it's expansion or relocation, Las Vegas just feels like they've already got the Raiders kind of in check, kind of as that benchmark. You're seeing a lot of interest or rumblings, like I said, kind of coming out with the NBA potentially down the road expanding, not necessarily, in the next year or two, but maybe down the road. And Vegas just seems like it's already kind of been tapped as a spot that they're going to get into. But it would be cool to see Nashville. Portland would be certainly interesting. You got a little natural rival built in there with Seattle. And if it's going to be anything like the Sounders and Timbers in the soccer realm, that'd be a really fun rivalry. But if we're gonna get one, let's bring it on into Nashville, and it will be very interesting, like you said, to have to potentially bust up some of the divisions and redo things there, unless you wanted some travel concerns.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Vegas is the spot. But the problem you mentioned with it being West Coast, I mean, Salt Lake and Portland are the only other two options. That doesn't bode well.
No,
and you've kind of got. Well, I guess Houston could move to the Central. Boy, y'd love that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, just go from
the AL Central.
And already moved us out of the NL. Now you move to the AL West. Now you move. The NL Central probably would be a little better, I guess, travel wise. But
think about the AL Central, though. I mean, it's awful.
Currently, I guess we're looking 6 or 7 years in the future. Who knows?
Who knows? But it's
I'd take those chances right now. I tell you that much, as opposed to having to play the Angels and the Rangers in Seattle every year. That's for sure.
Go ahead. I think you said you have a shout out.
Yeah. Also, real quick, how about this? A really good friend of mine. She lives in New York and she's from Loretto. So if you can just go ahead and mentally map that out in your brain real quick. But she got to go to the Mets game last night and check out our good friend, Mr. Ryan Weathers. Good little start for Ryan, his second appearance of the season. And it looks like he picked up the win on the mound, 5 innings of work, 3 hits, giving up just 1 run, struck out 3 batters. A couple of Loretto folks shining in the Big Apple last night. It was kind of neat to see, especially on social media there.
Always excited when Ryan can pick up the W. Machado's double in the 5th gave him a 2-1 lead, and then Bogart's homered in the 9th. And, give him a 4-1 lead, but Mets scored once. Now, that being said, today the Mets are up 5-2 in the bottom of the 8th on San Diego. So there's that. Wish San Diego would start playing like they did against us. Sheesh.
They took care of business in the A, but
they must have got all their runs
all
out.
right. Absolutely, yeah. Funny how that goes, isn't it? When they're playing your team, seems like whoever it is always has the best series of the season almost.
It's like Garrett Cooper for the Marlins, man. That guy's a Braves killer. Of course, we'll trade for him, and he'll be terrible because that's what happens.
That's how it goes, right?
It's like, what are we doing? But no, seriously. Rand Carthen, Mike Vrabel, and Jeffrey Simmons held a press conference today to announce the extension that we talked about earlier this week. That's huge, man. And as we've told you on this show, Rand has a plan. And if you want a Rand has a plan sticker, you'll have to come see us at First Horizon Park. I will be there April 30th. So come see us. We'll also be broadcasting live from there on the 24th. That's a Monday. We'll be at First Horizon Park broadcasting live. So get your Rand has a plan sticker ahead of the NFL draft. But yeah, big signing, man. Getting that done will go a long way with this fan base, won't it?
Yeah, I was, it was great when we had Mo on when that news broke the other day. I think all three of us kind of did a hip, hip hooray all at once right there because it just felt like if you let that kind of crumble and then potentially Byard also leaves, yeah, you're potentially already rebuilding, but it's just like, all right, now we're rebuilding with what? We're just reshuffling the deck entirely. And at least if you got Simmons and you somehow, get KB kind of back squared away and things look great there. Even if you are slightly rebuilding, it's at least a sellable rebuild at that point, right? And Simmons has just played so well. It was great to see them lock him up.
Yeah, I would have been, as a fan, very frustrated if a full rebuild was the plan. And I don't think that was ever going to be the plan. One, because you kind of can't. And I think, this doesn't really have any impact on the 11th pick of the draft. Because to me, you've got three options. It's a left tackle, it's Jackson Smith and Jigba, or it's trade out and go down. And this just, solidifies that defense. Kevin Byard solidifies the defense. You feel comfortable with maybe your cornerbacks at this point, with obviously Christian Fulton, and then you've got some young guys who have finally gotten some playing time. Roger McCreary, you feel maybe can play that number two wide receiver and man to man. You obviously need a linebacker. Don't have any linebackers right now, but other than that, you feel pretty good about this defense. And so obviously anchoring with Big Jeff and hopefully getting Tyler Tart back and that sort of thing would be huge. So,
yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at. If you give me Big Jeff and Big Tart up front, I'm willing to, work around and piece together the rest, but you got two really elite playmakers along the defensive line that can tremendously go a long way, and you can figure out the rest at that point.
I would agree with that. Hey, we're headed to the top of the hour here, and Caleb JARREAU is going to join us in just a moment. He's going to talk a little bit about that transfer portal happenings this morning for the Lady Vols, but also the baseball team, and how worried should you be if you're a UT baseball fan. So we'll get to that and much more right here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint. You guys stick around. Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Attention Tennessee homeowners, we want to buy your house. Hi, we are Real Property Solutions, a local real estate investing group. We pay cash for all types of property, so you walk away with more money in your pocket because we eliminate any fees, closing costs, and commissions. Now the best part, we can buy your house as is, meaning you don't have to do a thing to your property. You get to take what you want, leave what you don't, and don't even worry about cleaning. We close on your timeline, whether that's 7 days or 70 days. Interested in selling? Just give us a call and we'll come out to your property and quote you a cash offer within 24 hours. Please call 615-527-8750. That's 615-527-8750.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back into Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yao, alongside my partner for the week, Wade Neely, down in Pulaski. Plenty of fun stuff going on down there this week, and looking forward to reading more about it in the Pulaski Citizen. You can check them out. Listen to Pulaski Citizen Live tonight, as Richland and Giles County will be on the pitch. Should be fun. 7 p.m., you said?
Yeah, 7 o'clock. We're actually going to sneak in a middle school broadcast. You got the Bridgeforth Bobcats taking on the Richland Raiders, and then you got the varsity Giles County Bobcats taking on the Raiders. I am an alumnus of both Bridgeforth and Giles County, but I will call it right down the middle tonight, my friend. You have my vow.
Sure. That's what they all say. You're right. You're going to be the perfect guy for this one, right down the middle, I'm sure.
And I should note, we have a Mixler channel for Giles County and Richland. Both broadcasts will be on the Richland channel tonight. I'll be paired with Jennifer Hawkins, who teaches at Richland. So even if my bias were to potentially, hypothetically bleed out, Jennifer will steer me back right toward the middle. I feel confident.
You may have to steer her.
You never know. Her son is on the team, so it's a good little balancing act we like to do.
There you go. We go now to the Real Property Solutions hotline, where we welcome in from the UT Daily Beacon, Caleb JARREAU. Caleb, how are things? What's going on?
Nothing much. How are y'all?
Great, brother.
Well, yeah, it's been a heck of a day. Yeah, doing my best to do my duty to guide my country, to help other people and obey the laws of the pack. For you Cub Scouts out there who remember that, hat tip to you. We have some questions, but we start with basketball because a little shocking news this morning coming out about in the Lady Vols camp. So what were your thoughts when you saw that this transfer portal news come across your phone or desk?
Yeah, well, on the surface, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. Obviously, transfers come and go, and the Lady Vols have quickly become known for their transfer portal and activity, picking up transfers. But then when you look at the roster, Carolyn Striplin is now the oldest player on the team, and she turns 20, either I think next month or this month. So they have no players from the class of 2022, and they currently have no players signed in the class of 2023. So it's almost like in professional sports when you see a team that's committed to winning now, and so they just like load up on talent, and then they aren't worried about what's going to happen 3 years down the road. You kind of see that with the Lady Vols, because once this class and the class after leaves, I mean, there's no prospect signed in the 24 class either. You have a class of 2025 and then a prospect in the class of 2027. So the help is far down the road, and there's no prospects left from 22, and there's none coming in this year from the high school ranks.
Now, that being said, this team is already kind of full. So it's not that big of a deal. Like you said, it just seems like this is a shocker because she was a freshman. I mean, did she feel like she just didn't get the playing time she needed? You know, there's just questions on what would have brought this on, I think. And I'm really curious to see where she ends up.
Yeah, I agree. And I talked to her in March, and she said that, you know, Coach Kelly Harper has just been preaching to her to buy into the system and like trust her. And then she kind of also said that sometimes things don't always go the way you plan, and that this like not playing her freshman season has allowed her to mature and grow off the court. So that was kind of, I guess, foreshadowing of this move. I can't say that it was super surprising that she made the move. She seemed like somebody that a talented freshman, you know, former McDonald's All-American. I think she was the number 10 or 11 recruit out of high school. She's somebody you would expect to get a lot of playing time out of college. So I don't see the move that surprising, especially with the transfer portal these days. And there was some buzz around it as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up at another Power 5 school. She showed talents at times, but she also showed that she was still a freshman. And I feel like the best way to work through some of those freshman mistakes, you know, turnovers, picking up your dribble in the backcourt, stuff like that, is just to play more basketball.
So it's something. I guess I'm just worried about, you know, Kelly and the entire situation, because I feel like she's doing, every time she takes a step forward, something happens to push her back. And I don't know that it's necessarily her fault, but a lot of people are going to put the blame on her, and rightfully so. She is the head coach, but you know, in this world that we live in, it's a different animal, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, the transfer portal has changed everything. You basically have free agency, and it's not ending anytime soon. I think it closes March 11th or something, a date around that time. So I mean, we can still see more movements. I know Tennessee has already brought in a point guard, which was obviously a big thing that they needed this season. They brought in Destiny Wells from Belmont. She'll give the Lady Vols an instant boost. And now I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they find just another body to maybe replace Justine Passat. She didn't have that big of a role this season, but still just having her on the bench and learning basketball was going to be a big thing. And Kelly Harper talked about it over and over, how good she was going to be and how much they worked with her like individually and then on a personal basis, and watched film with her. So that way her sophomore, junior, senior year, we could see her thrive. So it is curious to see. Maybe I feel like Kelly Harper was taking more of the long run approach to where she was waiting for Justine Passat to thrive as a junior and a senior once this older class graduates. But now I'm curious to see what other transfer portal moves are made going in or out.
Yeah, and I guess that was my Caleb for you. My question for you, Caleb, is does this maybe, with the lack of prospects, either signees coming in or prospects down the road, because you painted a little bit of a grim picture in that regard in terms of their prospects. But I'm curious, does this maybe kind of teeter toward like a paradigm shift where, we've seen some teams, especially like on men's basketball, I think about Arkansas and a few other programs, where they really steer away from those high school commits now, and they're really kind of just, as you touched on, just all in, almost like a free agency approach. Is that kind of a shift maybe we're looking in terms of recruiting with the program?
Well, I think with Tennessee, they'll never completely get away from high school recruits. Obviously, they have a couple of recruits down the road who are ranked very, very high in their classes, obviously early. But with the Lady Vols, it kind of recruits itself. So down the road, once people see that the program maybe has a little more stability, then high schoolers will come. And I know that Kelly Harper has talked about hitting the 24 class hard, but she also said they check the portal every morning. They check to see who's in it, if they can help the program. So I feel like she's utilizing that as well. But basketball especially, I don't know how sustainable the transfer portal approach can be, because it's a very, I guess, intimate sport. You have 5 players, and if there's no team chemistry there, like we saw with Tennessee early on in the season, there's going to be a lot of struggles, because it's not like football where if you get a transfer offensive lineman, you can just plug and play the offensive lineman. They could probably make it work. Basketball, you need to know where everybody's at all the time. You need to know what your teammates are thinking on the court. There's not as many players. You could have locker room issues. So obviously down the stretch, Tennessee figured it out and made a little run in March. But early in the season, you could tell that the transfers were not gelling as quickly as Kelly Harper had hoped. So hopefully down the road, I think, and Kelly Harper said that she'll learn from that, bringing in so many newcomers, that it takes a second for the team to gel. So this season, with only 1 newcomer compared to last year, I think it was 5 or 6, that they probably won't have those team chemistry issues as much.
There you go. Speaking of women's basketball, before we get out of that, Caleb, we want to mention, obviously, Jordan Horston being taken by the Seattle Storm. So obviously great for her, and looking forward to seeing her playing in the WNBA. But sure would be nice to have her coming back too with that class that is coming back. So
yeah, she slid a little bit in the draft. She was projected, 3rd, 4th, or 5th. But honestly, for her, I don't think she has any complaints, because the Storm is a lot better team to go to.
Yeah,
she'll probably have a roster spot there. And she goes from, like the commentator said, which is pretty awesome, she goes from a historic college program to a historic professional team. So I think, honestly, sliding might be best for her, because you see it all the time, in the NFL, you send very good players to bad teams and their careers can never jumpstart.
It's not always bad to slide in the draft. That's exactly right. Yep. Because the later you go in the draft, the better the team is you're going to play for. So exactly. You're right there. Hey, let's go into the baseball situation. Obviously, got a lot of local flavor here in Middle Tennessee. You've got Drew Beam, Chase Burns, both guys from Middle Tennessee who are weekend starters for this club. That being said, struggling a little bit in games 1 and 2 in the SEC play. How concerned should we be about the current situation Tennessee baseball finds itself in?
Honestly, I don't. It's kind of a mix. So you mentioned Chase Burns and Drew Beam, and that's like the 2 ends of the spectrum right now for Tennessee. Drew Beam, of the 3 starters, has probably been your most consistent on Sunday. And not even just because, the bats are facing a lesser pitcher on Sunday as well, but his stats reflect that he's been the better arm of the 3, or the more consistent arm of the 3. Burns right now is sitting at like an 11, almost a 12 ERA. And he's just had a rough outing after rough outing in SEC play. So after that, I guess it was the Friday game, because the series was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Vitello said that, an outing like Burns had, or a performance, is enough for him to think about changing that starting rotation. And I don't think it'd be a fault for Burns to move to the bullpen for, a week or 2 or 3 weeks just to clear his head, because baseball is just as much of a mental game as it is physical. So I feel like if you put Burns in the bullpen, let him clear his head, maybe bring him in some not as high leverage situations just to get that confidence back up. And then you can bring, you probably have 2 or 3 guys in the bullpen who would be Friday or Saturday starters for most teams. Seth Halverson comes to mind. He's at about a 2 or 3 ERA in SEC play, and he's been using a middle relief kind of role on Friday. So once Dolander's done, they usually just go 1-2 on Friday, with Dolander going about 4 or 5 innings, and then you have Halverson finishing out the game. So I feel like Halverson could easily slide into a starter role on the weekend, and maybe if Burns goes to the bullpen, gets his mind right, kind of gets his confidence back going, because whenever you get to the end of March and early June, you need 4 or 5 starters for tournament play.
I was kind of looking at this, like you said, there are some guys that you could plug into that spot, but the big question is, why not just swap them? Why not put Drew Beam on Friday and Dolander on, on Sunday? I don't know why that's not an option. Maybe it is. Maybe it's something he's considered. I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure. I know Vitello is a very old school sort of head coach where you're kind of like set in your ways. So I know, like, just for example, like the run rule, he does not like that. He likes baseball, traditionally played. And honestly, with Dolander and Beam, Dolander's been hit or miss, and his first innings have been rough. But if Beam's working on Sundays, you probably should leave him there and just get your one at the least. Avoid the sweep, because you look at series like going to LSU, getting one on Sunday was probably what was expected against the number 1 team in the country. Now, Florida coming into Knoxville, you would hope to at least get 2 there, because Florida, came into Knoxville and basically ran Tennessee out of Lindsey Nelson Stadium. But then Beam comes out on Sunday, albeit Jack Caglione on the other side was just absolutely horrendous in the first inning. But Drew Beam had a solid outing on Sunday against the same lineup the other 2 pitchers faced on, or he came out on Saturday, and had a good outing against the same lineup the first 2 pitchers faced on Thursday and Friday. So I like Beam in the Sunday role. At least you get 1 game. If you move him to Friday, you might be moving a little too much, because I know they're thinking about Burns on Saturday maybe not being the guy anymore. So it's something to definitely watch. This weekend, I'm not 100% sure, but especially when Vanderbilt comes to Knoxville, if changes are going to be made, you definitely want to make it that weekend.
It's funny because when I was in high school in Alabama, every round is a 3-game set, and in the playoffs. So it's a 5-round playoff, and you play a 3-game series. We would always throw our number 2 guy in game 1, because if you steal it, you've got your number 1 going against their number 2, and you get the sweep pretty easy. And we felt our number 3 was going to be better than anybody else's number 3 at that level. So, we felt really confident. So maybe that's it. Maybe you're just hoping to steal one of the first 2 because you're going to get the 3rd one.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I know in Knoxville, it's 2-game series for baseball, and you see some teams throw off in the first game if they just know that they have no pitching. So, I could see it. I don't think that's probably that wasn't the thinking originally, for sure. But now it's more of a Beam has success on Sundays or Saturdays. Just stick to Sundays or Saturdays, and let's keep what's working consistent and change your other 2 days where you see issues. And honestly, Dolander looked all right on Friday too. It's just, it's very hard.
Bats have not been there.
Yeah, they struck out 18 times on Thursday night.
And
so,
yet
Dolander could have thrown a no-hitter and they probably would have still lost. It's just, you can't do anything.
And that is one of the reasons that I get so frustrated when I don't see a guy like Kavaris Tears in the lineup, who has been hitting the baseball very, very well and just continues to be overlooked. And I don't know what more he's got to do other than play right field better.
I know he did have a hamstring kind of thing bothering him, but another thing plaguing this team has been defense. which, I mean, when your pitchers who are struggling to get outs, you have to have a defense behind them, to make the play. And Kavares Tears has hit the ball well, and they probably have 3 or 4 other outfielders who have hit the ball well too. They just struggle in the field. And it's a matter of right now finding the pieces. I mean, when you see Jared Dickey at catcher, you kind of know that they're trying to get as many bats in the lineup as possible. And I feel like the outfield is another place where you have 4 solid choices. You just have to mix and match 4 or 5 solid choices. You just have to mix and match for who can play offense and defense.
Caleb, as we head into this series on the road, obviously down in Fayetteville this weekend, obviously winning all 3 would be ideal, but how do you envision the series going, and can the Vols kind of steer this thing back in the right direction, especially as you've alluded to, got Vanderbilt kind of looming on the horizon?
Yeah, well, you see, after LSU, they took the Sunday game, and the kind of storyline was, hey, we took the 3rd game of the series, let's build off of it, let's take it into next weekend. And then Florida runs you out of the park on Thursday and Friday. They take the 3rd game, and you hear the mantra again, like, hey, we took the 3rd game. Let's build on this momentum. They run rural Eastern Kentucky last night. So now the thought is, let's build on that momentum, go into Arkansas and win the series. Does that happen? That's yet to be seen. But, I mean, at some point, they either have to build on the momentum and it's not, I mean, going into Arkansas is not going to be an easy series. There's a lot of bad blood there, which doesn't help Tennessee right now, who's kind of skidding. And I think they could sneak away with 1, kind of like LSU. I could see them taking the Sunday game just because that seems to be the trend right now. If they take 2 out of 3, I think we're starting to see an upward trajectory that we need. And if they take 2 out of 3 from Arkansas, I don't see any reason they couldn't win the series against Vanderbilt in Knoxville. But if there's a time to turn it around, the time is probably now.
There you go. Caleb JARREAU on the Real Property Solutions hotline here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Caleb covers UT for the Daily Beacon in Knoxville at UT. Caleb, always a pleasure, always bringing the good stuff, and we appreciate you, man. You do a heck of a job, and we are smarter for having talked to you today.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good one.
Take care,
Thank you, Caleb.
All right, we are going to take another break because I've got to figure out where to go from here. We've got wild and wacky news, the weirdest and wildest stories from across the world coming your way in just a moment here on Main Street Sports Today. So you guys stick with us. We'll be right back in just a moment.
Walmart Supply Chain is hiring in Lebanon. Earn up to $22.25 an hour when you join our new fulfillment center. Enjoy competitive pay and premium perks, including 100% paid college tuition, 401k match, flexible schedules, a free Walmart Plus membership that includes discounts, and free Paramount Plus, paid time off, and so much more. Fulfilling work starts right here. Text JOIN to 240-240. That's JOIN 240-240 to apply now.
Didn't get to it earlier, but this week in Braves history, always fun. This week in Braves history, in front of a crowd of 50,000 people, 671 at Fulton County Stadium, Joe Torre homered twice for the Atlanta Braves in the first ever game at Fulton County Stadium. But Willie Stargell's home run in the 13th inning gave the Pirates a 3-2 win over the Bravos. Sad day, but always good. Special this day in Astros history. Nolan Ryan makes his debut with the Houston Astros after spending the previous 8 years with the California Angels. He also hit a 3-run home run in the 4th inning, but the Astros fell to the Dodgers 6-5 in 17 innings. And you know what? If I had to guess, I bet he pitched more than 9.
Wouldn't be shocked. And, also I wouldn't be surprised if he was ticked he didn't drive in more runs than on the 3-run homer, knowing Nolan, right?
Right. It's like, y'all couldn't get anybody else on base for me. I can do this all myself. Screw you, Joe.
I saw that in our rundown sheet, and I was tickled because, Nolan Ryan, what a gamer. Says, guys, I hit a 3-run homer. Come on now. Can we not get a little more run production?
It's funny. It's because it reminds me of the game 6 of the World Series in 95 when Tom Glavine said, would somebody score a run? Because they're not. And of course, Justice hits the solo homer, and that's all was needed.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Hey, let's go to the weirdest and wildest news from across the world. We go to Berlin, where German officials have seized a van entering from the country of Belgium. Authorities said on Wednesday. Federal police set a patrol on Monday, stopped the vehicle at a highway exit on the edge of a border city in a town I'm not going to try to pronounce because it's Aachen, so just like Aaron, and found cooked bats. You heard me. Cooked bats. And I know you're dying to see the cooked bats, so I'm going to show them to you.
I'm not, but I feel like, oh,
that is brutal. So yeah, and here's the even more so, not only cooked bats, but a ton, 2,000 pounds of unrefrigerated fish.
You said cooked backs, and I thought you were going to pull up a picture of Sammy Sosa from back in the day. But you really went there. So, oof, that was not what I was expecting, partner.
Yeah, tough day. Man, they were under the unrefrigerated fish, so they had to get through the 1 ton of unrefrigerated fish in order, to get to the bats.
I didn't eat lunch yet either, partner. That's tough.
Don't even try it at this point.
Nope.
A man who wanted a deputy's attention at a Circle K in Florida, Joseph Paul Bouchard. That's right. 57 years old at 1:30 a.m. was at the Circle K on Highway 27 in Sunset Harbor Road in Summerfield, Florida. He told when the deputy told Bouchard he needed to complete a traffic stop, Bouchard returned to his vehicle, took out a Silver Taurus 22 caliber handgun, and fired 3 shots into the air. There were people nearby. Oh, now you'll come over here, he says. This is Joseph Paul Bouchard.
Oh, oof.
Yeah. He said, oh, you don't want to come over here? Bet.
I'll get your attention.
He threw a pressure wash wand at the deputy, striking him in the ankle. The deputy ordered him to the ground. He ignored the commands, of course. The deputy had to use a stun gun twice. Bouchard fell to the concrete and was transported to a local hospital for evaluation. And he was then arrested on firing a weapon in a public place, battery of a law enforcement officer, and resisting arrest.
Yeah, tic-tac-toe right there. And you led everything off with the infamous words, Florida man. That's
Florida man. Trust me, Florida man will get you out here. So you got to be careful. But that's wild and wacky, the weirdest and wildest news from across the world. And we appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on Main Street Sports today. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully with Justin, so that this show goes better. We'll see you then on Main Street Sports today.